Well, I want to talk to the Trump supporters for a minute. What is Donald Trump's campaign about? He's a race-baiting, xenophobic, religious bigot. And you know how you make America great again? Tell Donald Trump to go to hell. If you can't admire Joe Biden as a person, then it's probably you got a problem. You need to do some self-evaluation, because what's not to like? He is as good a man as God ever created. He said some of the most incredibly heartfelt things that anybody could ever say to me. He's the nicest person I think I've ever met in politics. This is a defining moment in the future of the Republican Party. We have to reject this demagoguery, and if we don't reject Donald Trump, we've lost the moral authority, in my view, to govern this great nation.
That was an ad from the Republican Accountability Project, credit to them, about Lindsey Graham. Not just the clips we've seen so many times of Lindsey Graham saying things before going on to support Donald Trump about Donald Trump that were actually true and very much contradict his current language about Donald Trump, but also about Joe Biden that he would never be caught saying these days, which is really interesting to see. And I think, you know, there's something extra horrible about someone who says horrible and inaccurate and dishonest things when they're on record saying the opposite, more correct, honest things so recently. And that is Lindsey Graham in a nutshell. Someone who doesn't just currently say ridiculous things in support of Donald Trump, in support of MAGA, in support of his own political ambitions, but also so recently is on camera, and he knows it, saying the opposite. So yes, dishonest in his defenses of this dangerous MAGA movement, but also hypocritical, obviously, in all of those different things. And Lindsey Graham, I think, is yet another example of someone who will be looked so poorly upon when people are looking back on this moment in history. And that's something that I don't get. I really don't. As a human being, and I look at other human beings, I'm thinking, try as best I can, not so that I can empathize with the ridiculous behavior of someone like Lindsey Graham, but just so I can understand to properly respond to it. What's going on in his brain? And I don't get it. I don't get how people don't see that the guy who's currently, as we talked about in the segment about Robert De Niro and Bill Maher talking about Trump, the guy, Donald Trump, who has called for the termination of the Constitution, who says he wants to lock up his critics in a second term, who literally tried to end the process of elections deciding the president in this country by blocking the peaceful transfer of power through schemes that prosecutors have deemed to be illegal outside of the process we have for challenging elections, who is saying that the government should go after media outlets that he doesn't like, who is a civilly liable rapist, who bragged about sexually assaulting women, was caught on recording doing that, then went on to be found to have sexually assaulted a woman again in a civil trial. And that guy, they see those things, indicted 4 times, impeached twice, and they're choosing to line up behind him because it's currently politically advantageous, knowing that that has to put them on the wrong side of history. When a guy is as openly anti-democratic, dangerous to the foundation of democracy as Donald Trump, that has to put you on the wrong side of history. And someone like Lindsey Graham will have a legacy that disgusts people in the future and disgusts people right now. Count me in. And that's something I can't get my head around. I really can't. Because as I've said before, there has to be something more than current political gain. There has to be. Even if you don't have the same morals as me and you don't prioritize truth or good outcomes for the country in the short term and long term or whatever it might be, even if you are super selfish, but don't you want your kids and your grandkids to not be humiliated by you and the legacy that you left? And that's what Lindsey Graham's leaving, a humiliating legacy. I have a couple more ads I want to show you while we're on the subject of ads. Here's an ad. This is so good. Oh, I love it to see it. Joe Biden's campaign dropped an ad that just head-on directly addressed the subject of Biden's age. And take a look at it.
Look, I'm not a young guy. That's no secret. But here's the deal. I understand how to get things done for the American people. I led the country through the COVID crisis. Today, we have the strongest economy in the world. I passed a law that lowers prescription drug prices, caps insulin at $35 a month for seniors. For 4 years, Donald Trump tried to pass an infrastructure law, and he failed. I got it done. Now we're rebuilding America. I passed the biggest law in history to combat climate change because our future depends on it. Donald Trump took away the freedom of women to choose. I'm determined to make Roe v. Wade the law of the land again. Donald Trump believes the job of the president is to take care of Donald Trump. I believe the job of the president is to fight for you, the American people, and that's what I'm doing. I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
There it is.
Can we do one more take?
Look, I'm very young, energetic, and handsome. What the hell am I doing this for?
Okay, that's funny. Let me play that again. I didn't even know that was in the end of it. Here we go.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
Can we do one more take?
Look, I'm very young, energetic, and handsome. What the hell am I doing this for?
Okay, classic. That's it. And I have one more ad to play for you, but let me respond to that one. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Is he old? Yep. By the traditional, definition of that term that we sort of use. Yeah, sure, he's old, all right? We get it. Got it. Good. But he's the guy. He's the candidate. Here we go. The election's happening. Trump versus Biden. And Biden, as he's been saying in his speeches, he doesn't have old ideas. He has ideas that will bring us forward and have been bringing us forward, whether it be the stunning economic recovery, or the historic infrastructure law, or the historic Inflation Reduction Act, or the pro-union stances of Joe Biden. And those things, those actions and those policies that impact people's lives, they're not old, outdated, and would bring us backwards like Donald Trump's ideas. The way that he threatens democracy, threatens the rights of women, would not be good for working class Americans, etc. That is the juxtaposition. Two guys who aren't young, one of them who has horrible ideas that will bring us backwards, one of them that has ideas that would bring us forward. And I love that message because it doesn't dispute. It doesn't make people feel like we're trying to say, as those advocating for a second Biden term, especially over a second Trump term, that you're just delusional for having any concerns about Biden's age. No. Totally fair. Totally understandable. But let me tell you about the efficacy of the last few years of the Biden administration. And that's the contrast. A guy who clearly knows how to govern and is doing it pretty darn well, and a guy who wants to strip down the foundations of our government and the critical elements of the institutions that hold this country up. But there, boom, done. Easy. Make that case. All right, here we go.
I know the American story. Again and again, I've seen the contest between competing forces in the battle for the soul of our nation. Between those who want to pull America back to the past and those who want to move America into the future. The issue facing our nation isn't how old we are, it's how old are our ideas. Hate, anger, revenge, retribution are the oldest of ideas. I see a future where defending democracy, you don't diminish it. I see a future where we restore the right to choose and protect our freedoms, where the middle class finally has a fair shot, and the wealthy have to pay their fair share in taxes. I see a future where we save the planet from the climate crisis and our country from gun violence. Above all, I see a future for all Americans. I see a country for all Americans. And I will always be president for all Americans. So let's build the future together. Let's remember who we are, We are the United States of America.
So I've made very clear to you all, because I think as people who talk about the news, those in the media, we should be transparent about our views on things. And I think we should be accurate in our assessment of different leaders and presidents. And in the case of Joe Biden, I've been clear. I think he's been a really effective president, overseen one of the most successful administrations in modern American history. And so those are the facts of the situation as I see them. But as we know, the facts of situations don't decide elections. That's clear. 2016. And so we have to also be thinking about messaging. And that's why I like to check in on these different campaign ads. What is the message being delivered to people? And how compelling do we feel like it is? Is this going to move the needle? Because we need the needle to be moved by November, for sure, at least according to the polls. And I do think we're getting there. We're getting to a message that I see as something that, as I've been saying in previous segments, as more and more people actually start paying attention. If you're a regular political viewer, you're like me. You don't even comprehend how there are people who don't, but most people don't pay attention until right before the election. They have so many things going on in your lives, you understand it, and they only pay attention when absolutely necessary. And so a lot of people in the next few months will start really paying attention for the first time in a major way. And when the message is, they're coming from jails, they're coming from insane asylums or whatever, versus that, talking about uplifting all Americans and having a policy record to show for it, that based on that CNN Snap poll and other polls that we've talked about in the past, when people are actually confronted with the policy record of Joe Biden, informed on it, they change their views in a positive direction on him. I think we're going to be in a good spot. So you can hold me to that. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen, the final dash, 100-yard dash to the election. I'm both optimistic and so sincerely freaking out. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, and please go watch the interview I conducted with Colin Allred, Democratic congressman from Texas, who gave his first interview to this show as the Democratic nominee for Senate in the state of Texas. He's running against Ted Cruz. You can watch it by clicking up there.